So you're ready to buy a house. Now the big decision comes of how do I get financing? Which mortgage lender do I use? Depending on your community, you could have tens, hundreds, maybe even thousands of different mortgage lenders to choose from, not to mention all of the options online. The decision can be very daunting. In today's video, I'm going to help you cut through the mess. I'm going to teach you a mortgage term that's going to help you understand the actual cost of your loan and therefore be a tool to help you choose the right lender. The term we're going to talk about today is APR. That stands for annual percentage rate. Now the reason why that's important is because it's the actual cost of your loan, the true cost to get the financing. Because a lot of banks can advertise a rate, but if you don't know the cost to get that rate, you actually don't know the full picture, and it's too easy to be enticed by a low rate. And actually the government has regulations, consumer protection laws, such as the Truth in Lending Act, which does this exact thing. They want to tell the consumer exactly what you are paying for, because a low rate isn't the full story. And so when we learn about APR, and you're actually learning exactly what the lender is offering you. And so it's a way to actually compare apples to apples when you're choosing different lenders. And now don't get me wrong, there's other things that are important that do not affect the annual percentage rate, because when you start with a lender, you're going to get a loan estimate. And on that loan estimate is probably 20 different things that you're going to pay for as called a closing cost and prepaid. And a lot of those things don't actually contribute to the APR, because a lot of those things deal with more with the house that you would have to pay for anyway, like your property taxes, your home insurance, some title work, appraisal. All of those things are important and they should be talked about with your lender, but those items really shouldn't be used to compare lender to lender, because the lender doesn't really have control over all of those things. So APR helps you understand what are the things the lender actually has control over, and therefore you can look two side by side and actually compare them apples to apples. The APR is the number that doesn't let anything hide. It tells you what is the cost of the financing I'm about to get. And so it helps you not be enticed by a low rate. Instead, it helps you understand exactly what you're paying for, because sometimes the advertised low rate isn't the full story and you probably need a little bit more information to make a smart decision. So today we're going to talk more about that. And also it's important to say here is that the cost of your loan isn't the only thing that you should be considering when you're comparing lenders. Lenders add a lot of value that isn't going to show up on a spreadsheet or have a cost value next to it. But that doesn't mean it's not going to cost you money. There's lots of ways that they can contribute to the process. Relief of stress, communication, all of those things are important. And I'll probably cover those things in another video to actually point out to you what value are you actually needing to look for in a lender. Today is just going to talk about the cost. How do I look at the value side by side and actually make a smart decision there? Now let's take a look at two different lender quotes side by side, because most people want to know what's your rate, but most people don't ask what the cost is. And oftentimes I get people that say, what are your rates today? My first response is like, well, that depends. Depends on a lot of things. So it's really hard to just give somebody a number when they just want the quick answer. And you'll see why I tell you that it's a complicated answer to give. So this first chart, I just want to show you, it's meant to just show you the drastic difference that can actually be at play if you only look at the rate. As you can see, lender 1 is offering 6.5 and lender 2 is also offering 6.5%. And they both have the same loan amount, obviously, but the big difference here are the loan costs. And again, that's the piece that's going to contribute to the annual percentage rate. You can see lender 1 has $20,000 in loan costs and lender 2 has $5,000 in loan costs. The big thing here, the reason why APR is so important, is because lender 1 has an APR, an annual percentage rate of 7%, and lender 2 has an annual percentage rate of 6.62%. Now they're both offering the same rate, but the APR is very different. And so the big thing I want to point out here is that APR, the quick way to understand what the APR is telling you is the closer together your rate, the interest rate that you're going to get, and the APR, the closer those two things are together, the less cost that you're actually paying. If those two numbers are far apart, then that tells you that interest rate is actually getting a lot of cost in order to get that rate. And so you want an APR that's as close to your interest rate as possible. So a different way to look at APR, a different way to understand it, is that you look at the loan amount, $400,000, and we're looking at lender 1 in this case, just to give you a different way to think about APR, about how it works. Lender 1 has a loan amount of $400,000, and there's loan costs of $20,000. Now, if you add those together, that's a total amount of $420,000 to get that loan. And if you think about it, the rate that they quoted you was 6.5. The APR is 7 because if you have a loan of $420,000, again, the loan plus the loan costs, if you actually broke that down and looked at the monthly payments of $420,000, it would actually be pretty close to 7%. And that's why APR tells you the actual cost of your loan. Now let's look at a new example where the lenders are offering you different rates. And this is what I run into all the time as a mortgage lender. I have people giving quotes of, hey, this person said this. And in my mind, I think, well, I can get you that same rate too, but how much does it cost? Like, that's the big question. And so now we have a lender 1 and lender 2, same loan amount, but now we have lender 1 still offering 6.5% with $20,000 of loan costs with an APR of 7%. Now lender 2, I changed it up a little bit because lender 2 might be offering you a higher rate. They're offering you a rate of 6.75, so that's 0.25 or 1/4 higher of a percent rate. So at first glance, the lender 2 might lose because they have a higher interest rate. But if you look at their loan costs of only $5,000, their APR is actually 6.875. And so if you're taking the full picture into consideration, lender 2 is actually possibly giving you a better deal because they're not making you pay near as much upfront cost in order to get the rate, even though their monthly interest rate is 6.75%. So that's why APR is so important, because it gives you the all-in percent of what you're actually paying for. So moral of the story is, don't judge a book by its cover. If a person's saying, hey, our rates are 6.5% and maybe the market's a little higher than that, hold up, don't get too excited. You want to figure out what the actual costs are before you jump at that opportunity. And so that's why it's good to set 2 lenders side by side, look at apples to apples, and actually figure out what the APR is. Now here's just a little bit more concrete way to look at it so that you can kind of break through all of the costs. And again, once this loan estimate that I'm giving here is a standard loan estimate that any lender would maybe give you as an estimate. And there are lots of things on this loan estimate, and I don't want to say that these aren't important. Everything on here is very important, but most of this stuff does not contribute to the APR. Again, most of it is for the house. It's not necessarily a cost to get the loan. And so this is something that's good to go over with your lender once you've already got going, because it's good to know your closing costs. But the things you want to look at here are they're small. There's a handful of things. So, and almost everything that you want to look at is in section A of the loan costs. These are things that basically the lender has control over, and they're choosing or they're putting in there as a cost to get the money. And so check out section A of the loan estimate if you want to actually compare lenders apples to apples. This is more representative of lender 1 and the previous examples, where the cost to get the money is, in this case, $16,800. And there's a couple other things in this list, like if there was mortgage insurance, that sometimes can get added in as a contributor to the APR, things like that. But a lot of these other things, again, they are more toward the house. So in this case, a quick look helps you understand exactly what the loan costs are. So section A of the loan estimates. This one would have higher loan costs. Now this other one, this lender, section A tells you that the loan costs are closer to $3,900. And so again, you want to look at the interest rate along with section A of the loan estimate to give you a better picture of what you're actually spending for this loan. Now I hope you found this video helpful today. Now the next time you're out shopping for a lender, make sure to ask about the APR. Make sure you stop back again sometime. Again, I'm gonna have another video talking about the other ways that lenders add value. This isn't the only thing you should be thinking about. And don't forget to like and subscribe the videos. Hopefully you're enjoying what I'm putting out. And also leave comments if you have questions. I'd love to engage with you on there and get some conversation going. Tune in next time. See ya.